Hey,
Hi, everybody. It's fun time with Kathy and Mark talking about
always fun.
yes. And this is fun. It's fun to, we do a lot of trailers, but now, it's fun watching the movie and you're giving our initial reactions to what we saw. And this was a huge hit, a big movie, Tamil language film that came out last year and did extremely well, with first class talent in the Tamil
Yes.
world.
Oh my God, so many great actors in this.
Yeah, PS1. And it's directed by Mani Ratnam, who's just, kind of a classic, director of Indian cinema. So he's a big name. And of course, the music is by, who.
Who else? A.R. Rahman.
Yeah. So
Also, like I saw this movie a while ago, and we didn't review it right away. There was a lot going on at the time. Then it just came out on streaming. I'm watching this again, and then
yeah,
now
that's
would
when I
be a
watched
good
it.
time to watch it
Yeah,
again. And
because
so I'm
now
like, I'm so
people,
glad I did because it really helped to see it twice. I
and
really
it's,
appreciated it more.
and it's based on a 1955 novel. It's a kind
Mhm.
of a classic novel, and it's a huge story, so huge that they had to split it into two parts. So this is PS1, so you get half the story, and PS2 I think is coming out sometime next year, maybe later in the year, I think. So
Yeah.
that we get to see the second, like Lord of the Rings, those kind of things. It's just too much to put into
So
a
much.
3-hour movie.
But I loved the performances. Well, first of all, expectations. It's this big film. It looked really epic. It looked historic. I was expecting kind of a serious, dark Game of Thrones kind of treatment with lots of characters and violence and all that. What a surprise! Okay, it was really bright. Most of it was daylight, blue sky. Everything's like really like treated in not a light tone, but not like this heavy, dreary tone. Like there was a lot of humor, and I loved like Karthi was he cracked me up the whole time. He was hilarious. So,
Yeah, and I think maybe I don't know if that's the director's influence, because he's been doing movies for a long time.
yeah,
So there's not that heavy, dark, like you said,
right.
heavy CGI sort of hyper realistic stuff that you can see in these kind of films. It felt
Right.
more grounded in many ways. Like it felt like the way they would make one of these kind of big epics maybe 30, 40 years ago in the very
Right.
best sense of the word.
And it was epic, but it felt scalable. It wasn't like Bahubali 2 that was just crazy, insane, huge, insane
Right.
visual. I mean, this is not Rajamouli. So it
Right.
wasn't that over the top fantasy. Like this felt like
No.
kind of grounded. It felt like, kind of relatable number of people in battle. It wasn't a lot of
Right.
flying through the air, slow motion or anything. Like this was
Right.
like pretty realistic and but again, I did not expect the tone to be so light. Like that was the thing that kind of blew my mind.
Well, not having read the novel, so I don't know if that's the tone of the book or it's just the way
Yeah,
Rotten
that's a good point.
brings sort of this sort of feel of like a very accessible, because
Yeah.
as you may know if you've seen like this genre is not my forte. I can get confused and I get sort of bogged
Right.
down, but I didn't, even though there's a narration at the beginning that has a lot of information throwing at you,
Yeah.
flying pretty fast.
Yeah.
As you watch the movie, you sort of just get in lane and realize what's happening.
Exactly.
And so I felt, okay, I'm getting it. It's not overwhelming. It's not a downer. It's another thing. It's
No, it
not like
wasn't.
a drudgery. Like, the running time is quick. You're moving through this
Yeah.
fast, realizing I think that the story is the novel is so big that you can't really spend too much time bogged down on stuff. You just we have a lot of story to get to.
Yeah.
And we realized, hey, it's going to take maybe 6 hours to tell this whole book.
So
So,
true.
so
It's true.
that kept you moving and kept you engaged. And
Mhm.
and I think that's why it's successful. It's because it's a very much a movie, as
Yeah.
opposed to something that is darker and more, less accessible to a wide audience. That's
Right.
my take.
And it's not like you said, it's not drudgery. It's not it's like you have to know a ton about history. I will say I was a little confused on some of it.
Well, I was
I
too.
had a little bit of trouble keeping track of some of the loyalties and the groups and who was on what team. But I think my favorite character is the elephant, of course. The
Yeah,
elephant did some of the coolest damn stuff in this movie. I
I
swear, I
know.
loved him
Yeah,
just
I
like
would say I
running
was
across
watching.
that bridge.
I was watching. Oh, Kath. I know Kathy's favorite character, and mine too. I mean, you
It was
just
such a
how can you not
cool.
love? How can you not love elephants? Number one, and when they do cool things, you just go, "Oh yeah, yeah, that's
It was so great, and I thought it was actually thank you, and I've always loved this movie for that they did not hurt this elephant.
yeah, yeah." Even if it was, yeah, no,
It
it's
fell off a bridge, but it landed in the water. And elephants are good swimmers, shockingly. So
right, right. Um, I just another point is that the music really works in it.
yes, music was great.
Yeah, and that's sometimes, for me anyway, sometimes the musical numbers kind of sort of take me out of the story a little bit,
Oh,
but this
okay,
felt, I mean, this felt like right in with the style
it did.
and the tone of the movie.
That's true because I felt like it was incorporated as part of the movie. Instead
Right,
of, like,
exactly.
just a break time, it was, like, especially where Karthi goes to visit I don't know, but the princess, I think? I'm not sure who
Yeah,
he was visiting. See,
yeah,
this is where
yeah.
I get confused, like, I'm like, "Who was
Well,
it?" But I love how he kinda broke into the performance that was about to happen and just kinda played into it, and then
yeah,
they're
yeah,
kinda watching and going, this
yeah.
isn't good."
Yeah, no. And I think, part of the confusion might just be that we're not comfortable we're not familiar with the source material. We're
Yes.
not from India, so we don't know we're not baked in, so we're kinda coming in, learning all kinds of stuff while just trying to follow the story.
Yes.
And a couple of times I got a little, like, "Oh, what's going on?" So I actually, cheated and went on Wiki and tried to catch up a little bit and say, "Oh, okay, all right, now I get it." I did that a couple of times because I was enjoying it, but I say, "Okay, what's really the motivation here? I gotta pause it and take a look." So,
Yes.
but overall, that's that's not a big deal because that's not the fault of the film. That's the fault of my lack of knowledge, ignorance for the
And
story.
names are I mean, I can't keep track of Game of Thrones names, so
Neither can
let
I.
alone I have trouble with names in general, so but anyway, I also appreciate they had, like, some really great strong female characters.
Yep.
Granted, it was like I feel like some of it was based on, like, how beautiful she was. Like, the queen, basically, you saw her and you were basically under her spell. That was it. Done. You're in.
Yeah.
Male or female. They were all like, "I'll do whatever you say," the minute they
Right.
saw her, and I love the
Right.
slow motion, like, "Ah." when they and then I love Carthy's, reaction to when he sees the queen. First of all, he just, like, basically go, "Wow," like, eyes bugging out of his head.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
they had another scene where he comes to see her at the castle. He comes walking in, and there's all her handmaidens, kind of out in the garden, and he walks in and goes, "Whoa, hi, ladies." Like, he was
Yeah.
on fire the whole time.
Yeah. Well, he
Every
had
time
this
he
sort
saw a woman, he was like, "Ah."
well, he had this sort of sarcastic sort of vibe to him too,
Did.
I mean, I don't know if he's winking at the camera. It's
I
not
think he
that, but
kinda was.
I think it's like keeping with the tone of this being
Mhm.
a movie, which to me means we all know we're watching this. It's for enjoyment, and as opposed to being, like I said, dark and sinister and a
Yeah,
downer. That is not what this film was, and that was such a bright surprise because that's,
it was.
and I think it comes from being a director that's been around for a long time,
Mhm.
knows how to make a movie that is a crowd pleaser,
Yes.
and that's totally what this is.
It really
And
is.
it's not a slog at 3 hours.
No.
That's the other
It
thing.
went
Like, it's not.
fast. It went
No,
really fast.
I went fast because I think um, it's such there's so much story to it. I'm going, "Oh, how's this gonna end?" And then, "Oh, wait a minute, there's a second
Yeah,
part to this."
it did
So,
get just kinda end. I
yeah.
also thought it was interesting too how they kept all the motivations were very grounded, and we have,
Mm.
like, Vikram's character, but I love where he's
Aditha.
talking Aditha. He's
Yeah.
talking about how, like, "She left me and married this old man. I'll never forgive her." Like, he's so bitter and angry that motivates him for everything he does. It's like, "Dude, you got a girl turned you down, and that's gonna be your whole motivation
I
for
know. Yeah, true.
I mean, I'm simplifying, of course, it was more than that, but he had that
Right.
little tantrum for a while there explaining why he hated the queen, which
Yeah,
was
yeah,
hilarious, but I
yeah,
loved everything, like, I loved the great scenes of them riding in on the horses was so well
yeah.
done. I
Right.
think I remember some kinda interview where maybe it's Vikram or Karthi, I don't remember, where he was like, "Yeah, wasn't so comfortable, and the horse, it just kinda took off, and I ran with it." It's kinda
Oh,
like but you would never know by looking at him because he's, like, riding, he's looking like, very and I love how they open the movie with a scene like that because you're like, "Here it comes, a big epic slow motion horses," and then you come into this great, brightly lit, beautiful scene that wasn't gory. Like
Well, it
that was
wasn't gory.
perfect.
Yeah.
Not gory at all. Like
Yeah.
it had some CGI splash of blood, but when the sword sliced, you never saw what happened. They didn't linger.
It was again going back to kind of an old-fashioned
Yeah.
epic. If you watch something from the 40s or 50s, of course it's not gory. There's a lot of
Hmm.
sword play and there's a lot of people dying, but
Yeah.
you don't see the
They don't.
visceral,
Yeah.
visceral stuff.
Yeah,
So,
there's no nasty. This was a very fun, epic adventure movie.
yeah.
I don't. I'm not even degrading it by saying that because I know the book is beloved. But I say that as a huge compliment because I feel like everything's so cynical now and everybody's trying to make these, you know, super grim,
Right.
important topic movies, and we need those. But it's fun to see a movie like this where you're used to seeing this format used for stuff like that, and then they bring in this joyous, really fun to watch. It still had like heavy moments, but just really fun movie. So
And
I
you're talking to
enjoyed it.
and you're talking to two kind of gore hounds here, but and that works in certain films and certain things. But in this movie, it works that they didn't put that in because it just that can be like, whoa, like
Be a little
it's not.
jolting.
It felt the way they did it in this movie felt correct. So
It
that's
felt
all.
like they wanted you to see this with your family, and you didn't have to worry about your
Yes.
kids.
Right.
And
Right.
and
Right.
but that doesn't mean it's tame. I mean, I will say, as much as I loved it, Karthi, who I loved, it felt a little modern. Like the humor felt a little out of step with the movie, but I liked it. But I still felt like it was kind of like that was a weird reaction when he's like, oh, acting really goofy.
Well,
But at the same time, I kind of liked the little break, like seeing that. But it was sort of goofy.
I mean, there's other movies like that are take place, whatever, 500, but the humor is, humor from the 21st century.
Yes.
And you know that, okay, that's not what really happened. And that maybe not the tone of the book, or maybe it is. Again, I haven't read the book, but that's okay. It's
Yeah.
totally cool,
It was just
so
fun. It was just
yeah, it
fun
was
and went
fun.
really fast, and I really enjoyed seeing it twice. I thought that was cool to see in the theater and then see it on small screen, and it
Yeah.
totally delivers small screen. I mean, yes, should you see in the theater? Absolutely, but if you see it
Yeah.
on, I might say small, I mean our TVs now, or I guess your
Right.
computer, but it delivers. So you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about like, oh, I missed it on the theater. I don't want to watch it. Definitely watch it because it's not.
No, yeah, no, I saw it on my, decent sized screen TV, and it really felt epic, and the
It did.
music was, delivered. So it
Yeah.
was really just like a first class. You felt you were in first class hands
It was a
with this
class
film.
act, and I am sad we waited so long. I know it took us a while to coordinate to talk about it,
Yeah, I know.
but I'm glad we did, and it was long overdue. And we'll try and get to Ponniyin Selvan 2 faster.
We'll see that one at the theater when that comes out, which I'm sure it'll play locally in LA
Like,
here
I
whenever
had to
that
go by
happens.
myself. It wasn't.
No, I'll be your date. We'll do
Not that
that.
I'm complaining, but we will go. We will get as many people as we can to go.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, you guys. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. See you
See you
soon.
later.
Bye.
Bye.